Hello, Year 5, and welcome to summer term. And this is our reading session. I'm going to take you through a few little bits to help you understand what we're doing in reading this half term, because there's a few new things and I don't want you feeling left behind. So, first of all, you can see in front of us, we've got the front cover of Romeo and Juliet, play by William Shakespeare. You might already be familiar with it, but if you're not, let's have a look at the blurb. Now, Shakespeare's play is about the doomed romance of two teenagers from fighting families, and it's the most famous love story ever written, so I'm not surprised if some of you have already heard of it. Now, each week we are going to have a look at one part of the play. And when we talk about a part of the play, we're talking about acts. So we look at this red box here. It tells us that the play is written in 5 acts. And then within each act are scenes which show a change in setting or characters. And in the first act, there are 5 scenes. Now that number 5 keeps popping up. You'll notice it again later. So it's a play and it's a story. So we're familiar with non-fiction and we're familiar with fiction. And this is fiction. It's a narrative. And it tells a tragic story, one which has a sad ending. But it does it with quite a lot of comedy, some rude jokes, and some violence. So there's something for everybody in this story. Let's have a look at the actual structure now of the first act. It begins with a prologue. And a prologue is a really helpful thing for the audience to just be introduced to the story. And in this prologue, it's a chorus, a group of people who would sing it. Now, I'm not going to sing it, and you don't need to either, but if you would see this performed on the stage, you would see a group of people perhaps singing it. And this chorus, they introduced the play by describing these two rival families who live in Verona. And we've got the Capulets and the Montagues. And today, I'm just going to read for you the first scene of Act 1. And in front of you, you're going to get access to this as well. You can see that there's a little summary of every single scene inside this act, because you're going to find some of the language a little bit tricky. I found it tricky as well. So I want you to have a look at this summary before you read, so you've got an idea of what's going on, who the characters are, what the plot is, and where it's going, where it's come from. So if we have a look at Act 1, Scene 1, we can see that members of the Capulet and Montague households are caught fighting in the streets. And the prince, he's in charge of everything. He proclaims to Lord Capulet and Lord Montague that if fighting happens again, they will pay with their lives. So he's not joking around. I'm going to leave the other scenes for you to read. Now I'm going to show you the characters. There's a few, but to help you remember what's going on, who's related to who, who's friends and who is not friends, use this guide here. In the beginning, we're introduced to Benvolio and a few other people from the Capulets. And I'm not going to say any more about that. I'm going to let you discover it. But keep coming back to this character map to help you understand when you're getting a little bit confused. Okay? Now, a play looks a little bit different to a story, some of the stories that we've looked at in Year 5. And some of you will be familiar with a play, but I just want to draw your attention to a few things in case you have forgotten. So, in a play, there is a lot of dialogue. In fact, a lot of it is dialogue, but we never ever use inverted commas. If you want to know who is the speaker, you look on the left-hand side, and it tells you exactly who the speaking character is. And it tells you also if there's a new speaker, because they'll be on a new line. And if the play requires anyone to carry things, any swords or food or things like that, then they would be called props. And it tells you exactly what they need to carry into that scene at the top here, written in italics. So we know that this scene begins with Samson and Gregory of the House of Capulet, and they're carrying swords and bucklers. Now, it's quite helpful to sometimes look at a line in the play and work out where it is. And so there's really handy line numbers down the side there. I won't say much more about that. Sometimes as well, there'll be action. For example, we know in this scene there's going to be some fighting. Now, it won't have a sentence saying, the men all fought together. Instead, it will just say they fight. So be aware of that. Okay? Now, on here, I've introduced 4 words that I want you to think about as you're reading this, because they were words that I stumbled upon as well. So if you see the word tis, it's an old way of saying it is. Okay? And another old way of saying you is thee or thou. And you'll hear that a lot and read that a lot in this play. They don't use words like you. You would be more posh and more formal, whereas thee and thou is what you would use if you're not being that respectful or you're being friendly to someone. If you want to say your, you would say thy. And ear would be the way you'd say before. There are many other words you might stumble upon. I did as well. So in the back of your play, go to page 143 and there is a glossary, and it has a huge list of words which are unusual that you might need to check upon. Okay, so if you get stuck at a word, look in the back at page 143. Now, I'm just going to read to you a bigger summary of Act 1, Scene 1, and then I'm going to read it. So the play opens with 2 servants from the house of Capulet talking about their hatred of the Montagues. And they meet 2 servants from the house of Montague, and a fight breaks out. Benvolio, Romeo's cousin, tries to stop the fight, but when Tybalt arrives, things get worse. And we're thinking, who's Tybalt? Let's go to the character map. And we can have a look here. Tybalt, he's a cousin to Juliet. So he is also a Capulet. Sorry, a Montague. Now, no, he is a Capulet. My mistake. Tybalt has a line and he says, "As I hate hell, all Montagues, and thee. Have at thee, coward." The fight escalates until there is a huge street brawl involving both Lord Montague and Lord Capulet. The fight is eventually stopped when the prince stops everyone, saying, "On pain of torture from these bloody hands, throw your mistempered weapons to the ground." He's so angry, he proclaims that if there is another fight, Montague and Capulet, that's what we call the lords, shall pay the forfeit for it with their lives. Everyone departs, leaving Lord and Lady Montague talking to Benvolio, their nephew, about their son Romeo, who's been missing all day. And Benvolio promises to find out where Romeo has been and what's upsetting him. Romeo reveals to Benvolio that he is in love with Rosaline, but she doesn't love him in return. So let's have a look now at how that comes across in the play. Act 1, Prologue. 2 households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break the new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these 2 foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Do with their death bury their parents' strife, the fearful passage of their death-marked love, and the continuance of their parents' age, which but their children's end naught could remove, and is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage, the which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. So year 5, you can see why we want to be looking at the summary and giving ourselves an idea of the action, because the language is a little bit tricky, but also quite rewarding. In fact, you'll learn a lot more words and new phrases, and you might recognize some phrases that are already used today. So, Act 1, Scene 1, Verona, in a public place. You can follow along in your own books if you turn to page 35. And you'll want to just pause this so you can do that. You can do that by pressing play or pause or even spacebar. Okay. Enter Samson and Gregory of the house of Capulet, armed with swords and bucklers. "Gregory, oh my word, we'll not carry coals." "No, for then we should be colliers." "I mean, and we be cola. We'll draw." "Aye, while you live, draw your neck out of the collar." "I strike quickly, being moved." But thou art not quickly moved to strike. A dog of the house of Montague moves me. To move is to stir, and to be valiant is to stand. Therefore, if thou art moved, thou runnest away. The dog of that house shall move me to stand. I will take the wall of any man or maid of Montague's. That shows thee a weak slave, for the weakest goes to the wall. True, and therefore women, being the weaker vessels, are ever thus to the wall. Therefore I will push Montague's men from the wall, and thrust his maids to the wall. The quarrel is between our masters and us, their men. 'Tis all one. I will show myself a tyrant. When I have fought with the men, I will be cruel with the maids, and cut off their heads. The heads of the maids? Ay, the heads of the maids, or their maiden heads. Take in it what sense thou wilt. They must take in it sense that feel it. Shall feel, while I am able to stand, and 'tis known I am a pretty piece of flesh. 'Tis well thou art not fish. If thou hadst been poor John. Draw thy tool. Here comes to house of the Montagues. My naked weapon is out. Quarrel. I will back thee. How? Turn thy back and run? Fear me not. No, marry, I fear thee. Let us take the law of our sides. Let them begin. I will frown as I pass by. Let them take it as they list. Nay, as they dare. I will bite my thumb at them, which is disgrace to them, if they bear it. Enter Abraham and Balthazar. Do you bite your thumb at us, sir? I do bite my thumb, sir. Do you bite your thumb at us, sir? It is the law of our side if I say I? No. No, sir. I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I bite my thumb, sir. Do you quarrel, sir? Quarrel, sir? No, sir. If you do, sir, I am for you. I serve as good a man as you, though better. Well, sir, say better. Here comes one of my master's kinsmen. Yes, better, sir. You lie. Draw if you be men. Gregory, remember thy swashing blow. They fight. Enter Benvolio. Part, fools! Put up your sword. You know not what you do. And they beat down their swords. Enter Tybalt. What? Art thou drawn among these heartless hinds? Turn thee, Benvolio, look upon thy death. I do but keep the peace. Put up thy sword, or manage it to part these men with me. What, drawn and talk of peace? I hate the word, as I hate hell, all Montagues, and thee. Have it thee, coward! And they fight. Enter several of both houses, who join the fray, and then enter citizens with clubs. Clubs, bills, and partisans, strike, beat them down! Down with the Capulets, down with the Montagues! Enter Capulet, Lord Capulet, in his gown, and Lady Capulet. What noise is this? Give me my long sword, ho! A crutch, why call you for a sword? My sword, I say, and flourish his blade in spite of me. Enter Montague and Lady Montague. Thou villain, Capulet, hold me not, let me go. Thou shalt not stir a foot to seek a foe. Enter Prince with his attendants. Rebellious subjects, enemies to peace, profaners of this neighbourhood stained steel. Will they not hear? What ho, you men, you beasts, that quench the fire of your pernicious rage, with purple fountains issuing from your veins, on pain of torture from these bloody hands, throw your mistempered weapons to the ground, and hear the sentence of your moved prince. 3 civil brawls, bred of an airy word, by thee, old Capulet and Montague, have thrice disturbed the quiet of our streets, and made Verona's ancient citizens, cast by their grave beseeming ornaments, to wield old partisans, in hands as old, cankered with peace, to part your cankered hate. If ever you disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of the peace. For this time all the rest depart away. You, Capulet, should go along with me. And Montague, come you this afternoon, to know our further pleasure in this case, to old Freetown, our common judgment place. Once more, on pain of death, all men depart. Exeunt, that means exit, for a group of people. All but Montague, Lady Montague, and Benvolio. Who set this ancient quarrel new abroach? Speak, nephew. Were you by when it began? Here were the servants of your adversary, and yours, close fighting, ere I did approach. I drew to part them. In the instant came the fiery Tybalt with his sword prepared, which, as he breathed defiance to my ears, he swung about his head and cut the winds, who nothing hurt with hissed him in scorn, while we were interchanging thrusts and blows, came more and fought on part and part, till the prince came, who parted either part. Oh, where is Romeo? Saw you him to-day? Right glad I am he was not at this fray. Madam, an hour before the worshipped sun peered forth the golden window of the east, a troubled mind drave me to walk abroad, where underneath the grove of sycamore thou westward rooteth from the city's side. So early walking did I see your son. Towards him I made, but he was ware of me, and stole into the covert of the wood. I, measuring his affections by my own, that most are busied when they're most alone, pursued my honour, not pursuing his, and gladly shunned who gladly fled from me. Many a morning hath he been seen, with tears augmenting the fresh morning dew, adding to clouds more clouds with his deep sighs, but all so soon as the all-cheering sun should in the furthest east begin to draw the shady curtains from Aurora's bed, away from the light steals home my heavy son, and private in his chamber pens himself, shuts up in his windows, locks daylight out, and makes himself an artificial night. Black and portentous must his humour prove, unless good counsel made the cause remove. My noble uncle, do you know the cause? I neither know it, nor can learn of him. Have you importuned him by any means? Both by myself and many other friends. But he, his own affections' counsellor, is to himself, I will not say how true, but to himself so secret and so close, so far from sounding and discovery, as is the bud bit with an envious worm, ere he can spread his sweet leaves to the air, or dedicate his beauty to the sun. Could we but learn from whence his sorrows grow, we would as willingly give cure as no. Enter Romeo. See where he comes, so pleasure you. Step aside. I'll know his grievance, or be much denied. I would thou hit... Whoops. Pause one moment, year 5, while I just find my place again. So Montague says, I would thou wert so happy by thy stay, to hear true shrift. Come, madam, let's away. Exeunt Montague and Lady Montague. Good morrow, cousin. Is the day so young? But new struck 9. Ay me, sad hour seemed long. Was that my father that went hence so fast? It was. What sadness lengthens Romeo's hours? Not having that, which having makes them short. In love? Out. Of love? Out of her favour, where I am in love. Alas, that love, so gentle in his view, should be so tyrannous and rough in proof. Alas, that love, whose view is muffled still, should without eyes see pathways to his will. Where shall we dine? Oh me, what fray was here? Yet tell me not, for I have heard it all. There's much to do with hate, but more with love. Why then, O brawling love, O loving hate, O anything of nothing, first create. O heavy lightness, serious vanity, misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms, feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health, still waking sleep, that is not what it is. This love I feel, that no love in this. Dost thou not laugh? No, coz, I rather weep. Good heart, at what? At thy good heart's oppression. Why, such is love's transgression. Griefs of mine lie heavy on my breast, which thou wilt propagate to have it pressed. With more of thine, this love thou hast shown, doth add more grief to too much of mine own. Love is a smoke, raised with the fume of sighs, being purged, a fire sparkling in lover's eyes, being vexed, a sea nourished with lover's tears. What is else? A madness most discreet, a choking gall, a preserving sweet. Farewell, my coz. Soft, I will go along, and if you leave me so, you do me wrong. I have lost myself. I'm not here. This is not Romeo, he's some other where. Tell me in sadness, who is that you love? What, shall I groan and tell thee? Groan? Why, no, but sadly tell me who. Bid a sick man in sadness make his will. Ah, word ill urged to one that is so ill. In sadness, cousin, I do love a woman. I aimed so near when I suppose you loved. A right good markman, and she's fair I love. A right fair mark, fair coz, is soonest hit. Well, in that hit you miss, she'll not be hit. With Cupid's arrow she hath Dian's wit, and in strong proof of chastity, well armed, from love's weak childish bow she lives unharmed. She will not stay the siege of loving terms, nor bide the encounter of assailing eyes, nor up her lap to saint seducing gold. Oh, she is rich in beauty, only poor, that when she dies with beauty dies her store. Then she hath sworn that she will still live chaste. She hath, and in that sparing makes huge waste. For beauty starved with her severity, cuts beauty off from all posterity. She is too fair, too wise, wisely too fair, to merit bliss by making me despair. She hath forsworn to love, and in that vow do I live dead that live to tell it now? Be ruled by me, forget to think of her. Oh, teach me how I should forget to think. By giving liberty unto thine eyes, examine other beauties. 'Tis the way, to call hers exquisite, in question more, these happy masks that kiss fair ladies' brow, being black, put us in mind they hide the fair. That is struck and blind cannot forget the precious treasures of his eyesight lost. Show me a mistress that is passing fair. What doth her beauty serve, but as a note, where I may read who passed that fair passing fair? Farewell, thou canst not teach me to forget. I'll pay that doctrine, or else die in debt. Exeunt. And that brings us, Year 5, to the end of Act 1, Scene 1. A little bit challenging, isn't it? What I would suggest is you have a read of it yourself, but keep returning to the summary to give yourself an idea of what is going on, and try and be a bit of a detective when you're looking at the lines to see if you can recognize any familiar words to help you understand what is going on. So I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a bit of a challenge, but I think you relish a challenge. And next week we'll read a bit more of the play. Thank you. See you next week.